Here's the deal, guys. The moment the Lord marks you for significance, your life will never be the same. That's what Defining Moments is all about. That's what starts next week. But guys, before we get going today, I want to tell you about our Facebook and Instagram and Twitter accounts. We really invite you to join us, connect with us. We have a really engaged group of people there on social media. We'd love to spread the message of Jesus there as well. But guys, another celebration I want to tell you about is over on the east side. Our Clinton Township campus is opening its brand new building today. Phenomenal. We really are believing for 10,000 families to be touched by the presence of God and to really see Jesus make his mark upon the east side. That's what we're believing for. But guys, thanks again for tuning into the live broadcast. Happy Mother's Day to all of you tuned in today. We love you so much. From our team to your house, thanks again. If there's anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. We love to add value to you, family. But have an awesome afternoon. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Everywhere. Moms do a lot for us. Most of what they do, we don't even know. I just want to take a minute to tell you what I do know and what we love about moms. Moms are special. They know exactly what we need and when we need it. I think that sometimes moms are superheroes because they seem to be in two places at once and doing different things at the same time. Plus, they have eyes in the back of their head. Moms encourage us, support us, defend us, and hug us when we are sad and know exactly how to make us feel special and loved. Moms help us to be the best we can be and love us no matter what. So from every kid around, thank you, Mom, for being awesome.
Someday I'll fly away and I'll travel the world. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Wasn't that a great way to kick off this day where we get to celebrate and honor moms? And that song was actually written by Lydia Mullenix, who's 7 years old. She attends our Troy campus. She wrote that last year to surprise her mom, Renee, on Mother's Day. And then it was sung by this little beautiful girl, Ella Getz, right here. And you guys, I wish you could have seen her mom and her sister's faces while she was up here. That was priceless. But Ella is also a songwriter, and you may have seen her up here last week singing one of her original songs as part of our Kaleo Kids performance. She sang Courageous Heart. And then we had Zane Drummond over here, who's also 7. So let's give them both a hand. Well, we just want to welcome you here today. We're so glad you're here with us on Mother's Day. My name's Becky. I'm part of our campus team here at Orion. And we want to say a special welcome to anyone from our Shelby campus that might be here with us today. We would love to meet you and help you connect in here. So please stop by. There's a Shelby table and a sign out in the lobby on your way out. And then if you're new here today, maybe you're visiting for the first time or you've been coming for a while, we want to invite you to our starting point table. Our team in the orange t-shirts would love to tell you a little bit more about who we are here at Kensington and answer any questions you have, and we even have a free gift for you to take home today. And again, we want to make a big place like Kensington feel a little bit smaller, and so starting point is a great first step for that. In fact, here at Kensington, one of our values is to live life in community as a family. And so there's a few cool things coming up that I just want to highlight today that give you an opportunity to really jump in and experience a taste of that community. First is our Women's Smash Retreat. So ladies, anybody in the house going up next weekend? Spring Hill Camps in Everett, Michigan. I'll be there. I'm kind of counting the days until I can disconnect and really go up to Spring Hill and rejuvenate, spend some time with Jesus and some great ladies. We also have a great lineup of speakers coming, including Laura Korn, who's married to Josh, our worship leader. So we're going to be looking at radiance, beauty from the inside out, and how God wants to use our pain to really become our platform for how we as women might bless others. So we have about 100 spots left. Everything you need to know is online if you want to register for that today. All right, so another cool thing we have happening is on Wednesday night right here, it's our Midweek Service. And if you haven't had the opportunity to check out a midweek yet, or maybe you haven't been able to attend for a while because you've been so busy, this is a great night to come and check it out. It's a way to dive deeper into your faith. And together as a family, it's a way for us to engage in what God is doing. This week we'll have Cody and Dave Wilson teaching together. They're going to be continuing to unpack the book of Philippians, and we're going to be specifically looking at the secret to contentment in life. So please join us here Wednesday night. All right, so in addition to celebrating Mother's Day today, there's something else epic that we're celebrating. Anybody know what that is? Something cool happening over on the east side today. It's the launch, the grand opening of our permanent hub campus for our Clinton Township campus. And because so many of you have been a part of making that happen through your financial giving to our Everyone campaign, we just wanted to celebrate a little bit together and share some of that excitement. So let's watch this video.
I still can't believe we're here.
I remember when we first started out, we were actually not even supposed to be on this side of town. We were supposed to be at Macomb Community College, and then we ended up at the John R. Performing Arts Center. And last week of September 2006 is when we had our first service.
Wow. A team of people at Kensington over the last few years have been wanting to start a campus here and dreaming about it. And today is the culmination of 18 years of answered prayers. I'm standing on 30 acres of property that belong to us for our Clinton Township campus at the corner of I-94 and M59. When you first took me here, this property was $8 million. So why are you wasting my time?
Do you remember me trying to sell you that vision? And I was like, Steve, come on, picture it, man. And you were like, dude, it's $8 million. Why are we still in this property? Yeah. And that was in 2009.
And the economy had crashed, and we didn't know the property would drop so far.
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting it for, what, 2.7 or 2.8
2.8,
million?
somewhere around there.
Hey, there's the Clinton Township crew right now.
Not even after 6 months after we bought the property, a developer approached us and offered us, what, $1.8 or $1.9 million
Something, yeah.
for less than an acre, which means we ended up with over 32 acres of land for about $800,000.
In the history of Kensington, we have a list of miracles, things that are ridiculous. This is one of the best.
We had at one time IKEA going to buy this property and put an IKEA store in. Then the economy went bad and they backed out. Now here you come and build this beautiful building and you don't even pay taxes.
Dan, you're welcome.
But you do a lot of things that are really good for a community like ours. You bring people here for worship, but they're going to stay here and they're going to shop here. And you educate our children in morals the way that the schools need them to be. You've already established yourself as someone who is a pillar of our community. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Remember when they actually prepared this ground and they actually flattened it into the shape of the building that we're now in?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
And we all lined up around the edges with these stakes, and we wanted to put our stake in the ground to say we're here in this community. We're putting our stake in the ground for Jesus Christ. And then all the heavens broke loose.
What a wonderful name it is. Nothing can stand against.
And all the people from Clinton told us, man, we got baptized that night because the monsoon came in. And it
was anointing. It was like I think it's a moment where the Spirit of God says, yeah, I'm going to blow like crazy in this place.
What a powerful name it is. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ.
It's amazing how much prayer has gone into this piece of property. We did a service at the JPEC at Thanksgiving Eve, 2015, where we built an altar where people crossed the stage and they contributed rocks, just like Joshua did, to commemorate that, that miracle that happened on that spot by the Jordan River. The people wrote down the things that they wanted God to do on this piece of property. Yeah. We packed 1,200 people in an auditorium that's supposed to only have 990. And so we took that altar and we placed it on this property, roughly where it is now, where the stage area is, where the altar area is. We said, let's dig a hole and let's pour the rocks in, pretty much right where the altar area is supposed to be at the edge of the stage. And so we did. And so that's where it's going to stay for all time.
We were at Macomb and we were praying, and I was hearing all the cars zoom up and down. I had this crazy thing. It's only happened a couple of times in my life. The words 10,000 came into my mind, and I was thinking of all these people that didn't know Jesus zooming up and down Hall Road. I said, Lord, 10,000 is a lot of people. Is that what we're supposed to reach? And this is the crazy phrase that came into my head. But it said, Steve, I didn't say 10,000 people. I said 10,000 families. Like, you want us to reach 10,000 families? We weren't even reaching 10,000 people in Oakland County at the time between our two campuses. Since then, we've seen miracle after miracle, and this building is a living illustration. And I tell you, I think 10,000 families is only a small mark of what God is going to do in this building in the decades to come.
God orchestrated things circumstantially in the hearts of people, story after story, which means there's no doubt in my mind, God wanted this building here, which means that God has great things in store. So regardless of what we plan or dream about or more than we can imagine or ask, I believe that I think it's going to be greater. It's going to be more.
It's his master plan. It's been his plan all along.
Those are some pretty amazing God stories. It's been cool. Steve Andrews has been emailing pictures to our staff of panoramic views of the crowds at Clinton today and the excitement. And I just love watching that video, especially seeing the stones where people wrote names down. It reminded me of here 6 years ago before we opened this building. Many of you were here on this stage, and we wrote names down on markers of people that we were praying God would bring here to this place to know him. And just a few weeks ago, we had someone get baptized baptized a guy who shared in his story that his sister had written his name down on this very stage. So it's going to be so cool to see what God continues to do here and what he's going to do at Clinton Township. In fact, this is such an epic day over there that Dave Wilson, our lead pastor, who's also one of the founders of Kensington, he really wanted to be there in person to celebrate, and I'm pretty sure he drove his Harley there today because the neighbor of Clinton Township building is the Harley dealership. But we have Ryan Morrill here today. He's going to lead us through the message. He's our kids and family director, and I just asked him to just share something that's really close to his heart with all of us.
Yeah, so as we go into summer, we're, a month away here, technically, from that. If you were here last week, you heard me talk about this, that we have volunteers right now that are back there caring for many of your children or family members that are close to you. And they do this all year, 40 weeks a year, and it's great. During the summer, though, we experience some challenges as they, rightfully so, have to get away and go do other things and travels and vacations and whatnot. But we still want to have a safe, wonderful, fun program back there. So that is why we have this program, or this opportunity called Stand in the Gap, where we are literally asking adults to stand in place of those volunteers who are gone. And again, I said this last week, but I'll say it now. The reason we do this is because we want children to have a great experience, but also for parents to have a great experience in here as well. And I've been saying all morning that we have roughly about 100 plus new families on average check out Kensington for the first time during the summer. It's a time for people to try new things. So they come into our building, and most of the time they usually get in here. If you're a new family, you get in here late. Maybe you're even coming into this place a little late right now. But you get in here after experiencing all the traffic on the Pier Road, navigating the parking lot, figuring out where to go. You finally get your kids checked in at our desk, and by the time you get to the room, oftentimes, especially in summer, we only have a few volunteers, and because of our ratio rules and insurance things that we have to follow, we can only allow so many children in. And what we end up having to do is turn that family away. We're not happy about that, but that's something that happens. And so their first impression, which is being made, you have a first impression, 7 minutes to make a great first impression here in a church. And we in a way are making a horrible impression on them. And so what we're asking you to do this summer is to give us an hour. Maybe it's 2 hours, 2 different times, maybe even 3 throughout the summer, where you could stand in the gap and be part of that with us to change the trajectory of a family. Because what happens when the kids have a great experience? Mom and dad come into the service, they hear about Jesus, they listen to Dave, they listen to Cody, and that gets taken into the home. And you could see an entire home begin to change, again, its legacy because of that experience. So we would love to invite you in to be one of the makers of that experience with us as well. So you fill out this card, the offering will be coming by in a little bit, and you can put it in there. And I'll just say this too, it's a ton of fun, right? It's not all just because of the vision part of it, but there's a lot of fun that happens back there too. We have food, we got great coffee, all of those things you need as well, and we hope you join us this summer. So.
Yeah, I would just add to that, if you are a family with teenagers, we have always served as a family back there, and it's really a fun thing to do together. In fact, I'm signing my family up. None of them are here today, so they don't know it, but they're signing up. So we hope you'll join us this summer. Yeah. All right, well, before we jump into the rest of the service, why don't you guys stand up, greet a few people, and celebrate a mom that is close by you.
Mom, you are beautiful. You are so kind. You are the strongest woman that I know.
Mom, thank you so much for being such an amazing example of a godly wife, mother, and woman of God.
Yeah, and thanks for leaving a legacy of a crazy home, but one that really lived out the gospel of Jesus. Whether we're in the grocery store and you're inviting people over for dinner, our home was always open.
And thank you for including Vic and I, after we lost our parents, into this craziness of your family. And thank you for pouring your love and your legacy into us. We love you.
And honestly, I love you to infinity. And darling, you're my masterpiece. And no problem will
the strongest person I have ever met, and you teach us the most important lessons.
Mom, you are very brave, and I just want to be like you when I grow up.
Mom, you're one of the most hardworking people I know. I know it's a lot to take care of 4 girls all the time, but somehow you do it. We just appreciate everything you do for us.
Mom, thank you for cheering me up sometimes when I get sad.
Mom, you are the strongest person that I know. I admire your courage and your strength and all the joy that you bring to everyone around us.
Honestly, I love you to infinity. And darling, you're my masterpiece. And no Pablo Picasso could capture the beauty I see.
Mom, she's funny because she always tickles us every direction. Mom's really pretty.
Mom, you are everything I could ask for in a mom, and I truly respect how much you prioritize family first before everything else, and I'm truly blessed to have you in my life.
Mom, we love you, and you are a masterpiece.
Mom, I love you so much. You are a masterpiece.
Mom, you are a masterpiece.
Mom, you are truly a masterpiece.
Mom, you're a masterpiece. Mom, you're a masterpiece. We love you.
And honestly, I love you to infinity. And darling, you're my masterpiece. And no Pablo Picasso could capture the beauty I see. And honestly, I love you to infinity. And darling, you're my masterpiece. And no Pablo Picasso could capture the beauty I see.
That's where it's stopping from. All right, so done this 3 times this morning. I don't know if I'll tears every time, but I just want to say thank you to every mom that is out there. Thank you so much for raising your children and pouring your heart out, giving everything you can when no one else seems to be noticing, because you're not getting the thank yous probably that you deserve. And so whether your kids are grown and out and they've got kids of their own, or you're in the trenches right now, just trying to make it day to day with the children that are in your house, or maybe you're expecting your first, we want to celebrate you right now. So we ask you to stand up, and we're going to clap for you and just say thank you for loving your children. Moms, please stand up. I see the dads standing up. I don't know what they're doing, but moms, stand up. Thank you so much. And stay standing, because we have children. Our kindergarten and first graders, led by our amazing staff member, Lisa Doan over there, are passing out flowers to you today. We don't know, it could take 20, 30 minutes. So, your Fitbit's running, so that'll be good. But please take these flowers from these children. And while you're standing there too, I just want to say this as well. Many of you here, there might be some of you that don't have children, but you are caring and you are pouring into a generation that's coming up behind you. Maybe those are grown women, or maybe they're young children that you're caring for in a job, or maybe you mentor some young women as well. We just want to say thank you to you, because it's not always about the biological. It's about passing along the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord to the next generation. So we want to thank you. So stay standing till you get your flower. I'll say this too. For this day too, it's a hard day for others as well. And I know that there are women out there, and there's couples that struggle to have a child. For my wife and I, we had 3 years where we were trying, and we weren't sure if that was ever going to happen for us. And I want to say this, is that the God of the universe, hey buddy, you got ones right here. There you go. Oh, you're missing her. I want to say this, the God of the universe is with you. He's present here today, and he loves you so much. And for those of you, I just had a friend this morning who I gave a hug because he lost his mom. He's grieving that. He's been grieving it for years. And we all, it happens. It's going to happen to all of us at some point. But God loves you. And you are the legacy. You are the gift that goes on and continues to give back. And so he is with you today. And also, I'll just say this, that there is estrangement that happens in our world. And I know there's hurt in many situations where mothers have been separated and there's no relationship suddenly with the children. Whoever's fault that it is. But God longs to restore relationship, and he longs to heal that. And my prayer this morning is that you do. You find that, you figure that out. You climb that 20-foot wall that is there. Because there's nothing better, there's nothing he wants more for you to be at peace with the people that have been put into your life, especially your family members. So I'm going to pray, and then we're going to jump into this. So let's do that. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for moms. Thank you for my mother. Thank you for what she's done for my life, that I'm here. Thank you for my wife, for what she does for our children, day in and day out. And for the times where I know so many in this room feel like they're not doing enough, where they're not hitting the mark, where they feel guilty for whatever reason, Lord, I pray you fill that gap, you remove that, and you remind them of why they were made. You remind them that you see them and that you have an incredible purpose for them. So thank you for the mothers in this room. Thank you for those that are watching right now. We love you in your name. And we pray. Amen. I'll say this as we jump in. Andy Stanley said this years ago, one of the kind of famous speakers, Christian leaders, he said, your very purpose, the reason that you exist might very well be to pour into a child that has been given to you. And so many of you are here today, and the reason you exist is to leave a legacy with that child. And I believe personally there's nothing more important in this world than passing along that legacy. So anyway, had to say that. Hey, so we're going to switch gears pretty quick here, and I'm going to show you a picture of a man. You've probably seen this guy, or maybe not. Those of you that are giggling right now, you know what's about to happen next. If you don't know this guy, you're in for a treat. This is an expert on South Korean politics, and he's being interviewed by the BBC network. This took place about 14 years ago, and he became world famous after this interview. Again, takes place in his home office. He's using some camera on his computer, and just take a look what happens during this interview. Watch this.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited in the last 6 months.
It doesn't get old. I'm not kidding you. Go home and watch it. It's so good. So I just say this, I'm not about bashing the guys in the room, but I think we could all agree, right, that men, we're not the best multitaskers in the world, are we? We're really not. So, again, that went, I got 100 million views in a week. That was the definition of viral right there. So, a New Zealand comedy show caught wind of this, and they decided to run a little bit of spoof. And so what they did is they refilmed it, but they put a mother in his seat, and they wanted to kind of show you what would happen if a mom was being interviewed in the same situation. So watch this.
The question now is, how do people respond to their scandals?
For the wider region, I think one of your children's just walked in, but I mean, shifting sands in the region, do you think relations with the North may change?
It's unclear at the moment what effect former President Gun-Hae's impeachment will have on the territories. Unfortunately, discontent in South Korea is not only related to President Gun-Hae's administration.
Okay.
This is a major announcement for South Korea, who often criticizes the North of corruption,
Right.
and who now find themselves in the middle of a massive corruption case themselves.
Sorry, you do look rather busy there. We can reschedule this.
President Gun-hae is
No.
very likely to face jail time too.
Okay.
I would argue, in an attempt to make an example of her.
Right, so what does this all mean for the future of South Korea?
So the future of South Korea really hangs in the balance.
Oh my God, is that a bomb?
And it'll be interesting to see how the North reacts to this new shift in power.
Indeed. Well, this certainly has been... sorry, your husband is...
I anticipate there'll be more to come from this region in the next few months.
Kate Wordsworth, you're obviously busy. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, let's find this sock then.
There you go. Well, hopefully, moms, you feel honored because that is truly who you are in this world. You are amazing. You wear so many hats and you operate in chaotic environments, but you still figure out a way to be warm, kind, and loving as well. And again, you're much better at multitasking than we are. So thank you so much. So when you think about motherhood and you think about the joys of motherhood, there's a whole trajectory, whether it's 18 years or, gosh, who knows? I mean, all the way to the moment you have grandchildren being brought into this world. But I still remember back, and moms in this room, you still, in the days and ages here where we're looking at ultrasounds on computer screens. I still remember the moment with my first one, my wife and I sitting there, right? What is it? What is it going to be? What is that thing? And you see your child growing in your womb for the first time. The power, the magic, all of that. And all of a sudden the responsibilities that starts to pour over you at that moment that this is really happening. And then the child is birthed into this world and set on your lap for the first time, and you name it, give it a name. And then it starts to grow under your care. And they start to walk. And then there's the talking, the first time they talk, and then there's that moment, that first time where they say, I love you, which is such a beautiful thing, especially when a child says it unsolicited. Because what we do as adults so many times, right, you look at your child and you say, I love you, and we don't just say that because we love them. Of course we love them, but we're also wanting to hear what back? I love you back, right? We're kind of looking for some sort of certainty amongst the relationship dynamic, but the most beautiful thing, and this happens maybe once every year in my house with my boys, but you get this, one of my boys just says, Dad, I love you. And for moms, those moments where they suddenly share something beautiful, they give you that gift, or they go and actually think of you for no apparent reason. They all of a sudden say, Mom, this is for you. Hopefully you receive that even this morning, appreciation of some sort, and if not, later today as well. We hope you are feeling appreciated today. But then they begin to grow up even more, and they leave those early childhood years, and they go through the phases. I talked about these phases a few months ago. You have 936 weeks that you have with your child. I don't know what, 250 weeks when they're in preschool, roughly 300 weeks when they're in elementary school, 150 weeks when they are in middle school, and then 200, just barely over 200 weeks when they're in high school. 936 weeks, and it goes by like that. And soon enough, they're at graduation, and maybe some of you out there, I know many moms who in literally 3 weeks, their kids are going to be done with high school. And this life that they have poured into is now shifting into a new phase where they are leaving the home. And you as a parent, as a mom, are wondering, who are you? What am I going to be now in this world? Because part of my identity has been wrapped up in this child. When they go to college and you readjust and you figure out what your life is like now in this new phase, and then they graduate college and they get jobs, and then they get married. And then they have children of their own, and you're a grandparent. And you're freaking out because you don't feel old enough to be a grandparent. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful. But there's challenges that come with it as well. So many different challenges. First of all, there's the physical exhaustion. I see this in my own home right now. We were at sports from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. yesterday. 12 hours, 3 different children. My wife was asleep at 9:15. She was so tired. She's so exhausted. trying to navigate this world that's going on around you with your children, with your family, with your home, maybe with your job as well. Then there's the tantrums when they're younger. There's the arguments that come when they're older. The feelings of helplessness that every parent experiences when their child is going through something that we can't necessarily intervene in. And you know those moments, moms. You know those moments where you desperately just want to reach in and say, I'll take that. You don't have to worry about that. But we can't. It's something that they can only go through. And it's so hard to watch them walk through that. And then there's the tension that so many mothers experience between career and family, right? And this is in our home as well. My wife's a kindergarten teacher. She has to leave early in the morning. She comes back after caring for 26 souls, and I call them souls, all day long, these 5- and 6-year-olds. And she comes home and she's depleted and she's exhausted and she wrestles with that guilt feeling because she's so tired and there's so many things that are happening that she can't always be a part of. Fortunately, I can be there at times because of my job just to help and jump in, but there's this feeling in her of, gosh, I just want to be a great mom. But she also wants to help provide as well. And then there's the expectations that come with culture and with what they place on mothers as well, to have your kids look like this, to have your home like this, to make sure you're cooking and having meals going on. And you just, there's this thing that moms just feel like everything has to look just this way. And it's not easy being a mom. And sometimes the challenges can overshadow the joys. But my hope for all of you here on Mother's Day is that you would know that you're on an incredible journey of motherhood. And while on it, even though you feel alone, and many of you walk into this room today probably feeling alone. I'm going to talk about that a little bit because we all feel that at times, but I'm sure as a mom, there's a sense of, does anyone even understand what it is I do? Does anyone get it? And you maybe walked into here. Hopefully you got an incredible thank yous this morning. Hopefully you felt appreciated, right? But I want you to know that if it didn't happen or if it doesn't quite happen the way you want it to, it's not necessarily anyone's fault. That's the way human nature is because we don't always see it. But there is a God who sees everything. There's a creator of the universe who is walking in life with you and sees you and applauds you and cheers for you and celebrates what no one else sees and the incredible gift you are to the world. So in talking about this today, we're going to be looking at the story of a woman who I think all of us in this room can relate with. She's damaged goods, all right? She's not anyone that others would be excited necessarily to be around. She's a slave, actually. So she's at the bottom rung of society, right? Boy, somebody's upset, right? Bottom rung. Nobody cares at all. She's in a near-death situation. She's abused, and she is pregnant out of wedlock as well. And so this woman does not have her life together. She is not the picture-perfect situation. We're going to see how God meets her in a beautiful, beautiful moment. Before we do that, though, we are going to take our offering right now. And so the ushers are going to come forward. And for those of you that are visiting today, we're glad you're here. You can let the offering basket pass on by. You're welcome to give to it as well. But those of you that call this home, thank you so much for giving. Know that it is benefiting children. Know that it is benefiting the next generation, the church, and legacies for the future. Know that it's having an impact not only here, but in Clinton Township and Troy and all over the world as well. So thank you for those of you that are financially giving, and thank you to those of you that are watching online as well. It is so much appreciated. So here we go. We're going to talk about this woman. Again, her name, I don't think I said it before. Her name is Hagar. And Hagar was an Egyptian slave. An Egyptian slave. So remember that. She is at the bottom rung. And she served a woman named Sarah. Okay? Sarah was married to a man. Maybe you've heard this name before. A man named Abram. Or as was later titled, Abraham. And Abraham was the one who God gave extraordinary, crazy promises to. Many different promises. One of those was that when he was old, he and his wife, Sarah, would have children. They hadn't had any children when they were younger. They couldn't have children for whatever reason. And when they are older, they're going to have children who, as a result of that, the descendants will start to flow out of that. And soon enough, his descendants will be more numerous than the stars in the sky, which is a great visual, especially in that day and age when they're not dealing with all the ground light and the street lights and the car lights and the city lights that we deal with. If you go out in the country, that's one of the most striking things that people first experience at night when you see the stars. You see thousands, hundreds of thousands of stars up in the sky that you don't see every day here in the city. And so Abraham catches this picture of, wow, all of this. And this is a promise that is given to him. And it also, the crazy part of this is that Abraham is 86 years old. Sarah is 90 years old. And so this promise is in effect at that point in time, 86 and 90, all right? The reproductive organs have retired at this point in life. They're no longer working. They're on the beach. They're not functioning the way they're meant to anymore. So at 86 and 90, they're trying to believe this promise of God. And they believed it for 10 years. 10 whole years. 3,650 days is what they had to do with believing this promise. Now, all of us have been given wisdom or promises, or hey, we hear things from people who are wiser than us as we're going along. We might hear from teachers or maybe our parents and say, if you do this over a period of time, you probably won't do that. So I tell my kids this about flossing, brushing their teeth. Well, if you do this day in and day out, well, guess what? 6 months from now, when you go back to the dentist, you're not going to have that cavity. Well, they last for about 3 or 4 days or a week, and suddenly it starts to fall off. 10 years later, though, Abraham and Sarah are still believing this promise from God. But things start to switch in that 10th year, specifically for Sarah, because what she starts to do, as we always do, is we decide we probably know best. Whatever feeling or sense is coming in us is what we need to do. That's what's starting to enter in for Sarah. And this is what she says in Genesis 16:2. She says, "The Lord has kept me from having children." She's saying this to Abraham. Has kept me from having children. So she says, "Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Now, in the modern era, I've heard lots of crazy stories in families, but I've never heard a situation where a wife turns to the husband and says, hey, this isn't turning out the way I want it to. I want you to go be with this other woman. That doesn't happen. The bank of marital fidelity doesn't function well in those situations. But it happened back in this day. And it happened probably fairly regularly. And just because it happens in the Bible doesn't mean that God liked it or favored it in any way. This is just what happened so that the family line, so that children could be born to a couple that were struggling with it. That's the way it was then. And so, believe it or not, that plan works. She tells Abraham to go be with another woman. He says, okay. And so he goes and he bees with another woman. And soon enough, this woman, Hagar, gets pregnant. And this child is growing inside of her womb. And as that begins to take place, the relationship between Hagar, slave, and Sarah, the wife, begins to change as well. And it's frustrating to Sarah. And she begins to change her mind. She's not happy with the situation. This is what we read in Genesis 16:5. It says, she goes to Abraham, by the way. She says this, "You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me." So she's angry at Abraham for the decision that they made together. And Abraham, you can almost see him, eating chips on the couch, and he looks there, he says, "You know what? Your slave is in your hands. Do with her whatever you think is best." Basically saying, it's not my problem, right? Hey, you told me to do it, you deal with it. That's great leadership coming from Abraham right there. So, doesn't do anything with it. So, Sarah decides to take matters into her own hands. And this is what we read following it. We read about how she took her anger and her frustration and her jealousy out on Hagar. And in verse 6, we read about how Sarah mistreated Hagar. And when we read the word mistreated, we think of mistreated in our day and age as somebody's just not being nice to me, or maybe they're not giving my fair share or equal portion of things, whatever that is. But the mistreatment of a slave completely different thing. Again, bottom rung, property, and we can assume and be assured that we're talking about abuse. We can also be pretty sure that it was violent abuse and that her life was literally threatened because of this woman. And so Hagar has to make a choice. Is she going to stay in this violent situation, or is she going to escape? Is she going to run for her life? And so that's exactly what she does. She chooses to run away. The problem is where they live, they're surrounded by desert. And if you run away, the only place you can run into is a place that is not designed to sustain life. So she's literally choosing to go out, potentially perish, and die a slow death in the desert versus staying in the situation. So we get a picture of how bad things truly are. So safe to assume that Hagar is in, again, a life-threatening situation. She had no family around her because she was from Egypt, faraway land, so nobody's close enough to help her. Again, she's a slave. Why would anyone help a slave? She was also pregnant, right? So everything that comes with that in those 9 months. She had nowhere to sleep, probably had very little food and money, and she was completely alone, which for a woman to be alone in that environment, all of the threats and the dangers that come from men who would want to attack her and do horrible things came with that as well. So in verse 7, we read about a moment, though, where things begin to change for her as she's clinging to life in the desert, trying to survive. And all of a sudden, an angel of the Lord comes to Hagar. And it says that he appeared with her at a spring or at a well. And he begins to engage in a conversation with her. And I'll talk about the spring and a well in just a second. But as he appears to her, he starts to dialogue and he tells her, and it's the Lord speaking through this angel. He gives her vision and direction for what she's supposed to do. Basically, he gives her a golden parachute to get out of this situation. And that is that she needs to go back to the situation she was in. There's a reason for that, and I'm sure that this was not the news that Hagar wanted to hear. She wanted some other lifeboat to be put out for her, but this is what was told to her. And so after that occurrence, after she has this encounter with God, we read this in Genesis 16:13. We read how Hagar gave God a new name. And this is the name. Here it goes. It's read right there. She says, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." So Hagar names God the God who sees. And I want to say this too as it pops up there, and this is our main thought for the day, is that there is a God who sees you. And he saw Hagar in this moment. And it was so easy to see her as the woman that was pregnant out of wedlock, that was probably abused by this other woman, who was probably marked and beaten, right? She's seen as a piece of property, as damaged goods, so to speak. She, again, has no worth in society as it is, and her reputation, everything is gone and out the window. And nobody wants to see Hagar. No one at all. But at this moment, God sees her, and Hagar realizes it and says, "You are the God who sees me." So I want to stop for a second. I want to just poll. If I had a chance to poll the room or survey the room, I would bet that with probably 100% certainty, maybe 99% of us all have felt at some point in our life, and probably many of us recently, where you feel like no one is seeing you. No one understands what is truly going on with you. We've all been there. We've all experienced that in our lives. I know that I have felt this, especially for you as moms, which I'll talk about in a second. As a mom, you feel that no one's seeing what it is you do. No one gets how hard you are working. And I know I've been there as a man, even as a father. I felt that even in my employment situations, where no one really is getting what I do. Nobody is seeing what I'm doing. I felt that in my social circles, where, you know what, my friends really don't understand what my life is like, what is going on inside of me. And I've even felt it in my own home. And I've thought my children don't even get it. They don't understand how I'm pouring out every single day for them. They don't get it. They don't see it. Hagar had a moment, though, where God saw her, and it was a beautiful thing, because no one wants to be invisible. No one wants to be unseen. As I shared before, my wife is a professional. She teaches kindergarten, and I have the privilege of, as she heads out to work in the morning, I have the privilege of, I'm still home because I don't have to be in as early as she does. So I have the privilege of getting my children out the door, especially when they were younger. I had the children of the privilege of getting them out the door to school. And shortly after we had our third child, we had a second grader at that point, which is 7, 8 years old. And we had a kindergartner, 6 years old, and we had this little baby. And so she's heading off to work, and she's so sad because she doesn't, and she's trusting that I will be able to get everything done, right? And get them to school. And the baby's going to come with me to work, and we have wonderful childcare there. So I am left, at roughly 7:30 in the morning. I've got 1 hour to pull this whole thing together. And so I begin. I've got to get them up. I've got to get them dressed. I've got to change the baby. I've got to make sure that they are all fed and that Eggo waffles, praise Jesus for Eggo waffles. I'm just going to say that. I don't know if I'd have children right now if we didn't have Eggo waffles. I don't know what they would have eaten, but we would get waffles and whatever the dry Cheerios were, and we'd do all that stuff. And I'd get them dressed. I'd get the clothes on. I'd get all the forms put into the backpacks that they needed. I'd make sure whatever homework, that if there was anything that was getting put in there, signed checks that needed to go towards PTA, PTSA, whatever those things are that you have to do. And so I'd make sure all of that is there, and then I'd have to take care of myself. I'd have to get in. And it was a circus. It was an absolute circus. And I was the ringmaster. I really was. And there'd be yelling, and there'd be crying, and I'd be pushing them out of the car. I don't even know how they got buckled in, but they did. And I had this thing going on in my head, though, and this is the thing that always drove me, is I don't want to be late for school. No matter what, I am not going to be the dad that shows up to school 15 minutes late. I'm not going to be that. I'm going to get there on time. So as I'm yelling at them, get in the car, we're going to school, buckle yourself. No, I'm not going back into the house. All of this stuff, we're getting in the car. We drive to the school, and school starts at 8:55, and I'm not kidding you. As I pull in 8:54 or earlier, pretty much every single day, as I'm pulling in the parking lot, there is this sense that comes over me, and it was for many months, maybe even a year or two, where I felt like I deserve a medal right now. I deserve this so much because what I just did is incredible. It really is. And as I'm pulling in the parking lot, getting them out, trying to, get into the school, I really feel like, and this is, I pictured this, I feel like the principal should come out and start just saying, Mr. Morrill, way to go. And all of the teachers come out onto the sidewalk, form a line for me, parapros as well, come out, Mr. Morrill, you are amazing. Because I really felt that way. I needed that encouragement. I needed somebody to say, great job. But do you think anybody saw it? No, all I got was, sir, you can't park over there, right? North to drop off, south to pick up, moron, That's what I was hearing from people. And nobody saw how hard I was working. No one saw behind the scenes into every mother that is out there. I know you feel that. And there is a God who sees you. He sees that labor and that toil, what you did, what you have to do, and what you will do in the years to come. He sees it, and he knows it, and he applauds it, and he celebrates that in you. And he saw Hagar for who she was, what no one else could see. And it was truly, truly a beautiful thing. So in seeing Hagar, 3 things come about from that. In seeing this woman, in God seeing her, there's 3 things that really result from that. 3 words I hope you take today that the Creator really kind of bestows on us, that shapes the way that the Creator sees us. 1 is value. He brought incredible value to this woman who had no value at all. Again, bottom rung, nobody cares, pregnant, who would want to be around this person? But God says, you are important to me. And to every single one of you on those days when you think no one is watching, when you don't get thank yous, when everyone else is celebrated but you, know that he sees you and he values what it is you are doing. And my hope, because again, you're not going to get it from your spouses, we're going to drop the ball. Your children are going to drop the ball. But know that God is saying, you're valuable. Do not stop. Keep going with what it is you are doing. First one, values. Second one is he cares. This is what we read in Exodus 3:7. God's talking to Moses, and he says, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. We have a God in heaven who is concerned and cares about our life. He was concerned and cared deeply about this woman that no one else cares about in Scripture. Nobody else is seeing her. And yet he sees Hagar and cares for her. And if he's seeing her and cares for her, he's seeing you on your worst of days. And you think, so it's so easy. Oftentimes we think nobody cares. And we share our burdens with people. I do that too. I share my burden with people, and they say, oh, and they enter into it for a second with me. Sometimes Christians do this. Oh, I'll be praying for you. And I'm sure many of them do. But I have to watch it when I say that, because I recognize too, I know my own self, and I know I'm going to move on in life, and I got my own problems to take care of, and I'm going to forget all about you. And yes, I'd like to think I care, but I care a lot more about myself. And the beautiful thing is that God is not like us in that regard. Our trials are his trials. So he cares for you. And the third thing is that he provides. And I mentioned this at the beginning, that a spring appeared, a well appeared. And when Hagar had no other solution, she's on death's doorstep. Suddenly a well, the life-giving source of water, is brought to her. And so many of us in this room and in life, we go through deserts. And some of you just went through a desert. Maybe you're out of it right now. And that's wonderful. I'm so glad you're out of it. Some of you are in it right now. You are in a very dry time. There is pain, there is heartache, there is fracture in your life. Whatever that is causing that desert, you're in it right now. And some of you, we all know that deserts will come. It's going to happen to us. And the beautiful thing is that God will provide. It may not be in the form that we hope it is. It may not be in the perfect package that we want, but he will provide. He will provide sustenance in whatever way to give us that energy to keep going. If we look to him, if we are open to what he is doing, he will provide encouragement. And he might very well provide the energy that you need just to get out of bed in the morning, to keep doing what you are doing in your own house. He is the God that provides. In addition to that, too, he not only provided a physical thing, water needed for Hagar, he also provided direction. And again, when we're in the desert, the great thing is when we're in the desert, we don't think there's any great things happening, but the great thing is when you're at the very bottom with nothing to reach out for and nothing in your hand, that's the moment that God can actually put something in your hand. That's the moment where you will actually listen. Because when everything's wonderful, when everything's joyous and everything's going our way, we don't listen. We're juggling enough other wonderful things. Look at all the things that I can do. Oh, this is awesome. Life's so good, right? But we're in their desert. We're going to take whatever gets thrown our way. We'll take that lifeline. And it may not necessarily totally be what we want, but that's what happens in the deserts, because God can speak to us in those moments in time because we don't have anything else to grab a hold of. And that's what he did for Hagar. It wasn't the news she wanted to go back to Sarah, but he will speak to us, because what God longs to do more, as I said, in relationships, he longs to heal. He longs to see love restored. And he wants us to do whatever we possibly can to do that. So to be seen by God means to have value, and it means to be cared for, and that God will provide. And so as we start to near the end here, a lot of us in this room, as I said, struggle with this feeling of being unseen and feeling invisible. And I know, again, moms, you feel that so often in your life. And so I wanted to read this sort of a poem. It's more of just a passage here written by a woman named Nicole Johnson. And it is titled, I Am Invisible. And I thought, maybe you can relate to this a little bit. This is what this mom writes. She says, it all began to make sense. The blank stares, the lack of response, the way one of the kids will walk into the room while I'm on a phone and ask to be taken to the store. And inside I'm thinking, can't you see? I'm on the phone. Obviously not. No one can see I am on the phone or cooking or sweeping the floor or even standing on my head in the corner because no one can see me at all. I am invisible. Some days I am only a pair of hands, nothing more. Can you fix this? Can you tie this? Can you open this? Someday I'm not a pair of hands. I am not even a human being. I am a clock to ask, what time is it? I am a satellite guide with a remote control asking, what number is the Disney Channel? I am a car to order, a cab driver that says, right around 5:30, please pick me up then. I was certain that these were the hands that once held books, and the eyes that studied history, and the mind that graduated from college. But now they had all disappeared into the peanut butter, never to be seen again. I'm sure many of you can relate to this. If you've ever felt this way as a mom, if you feel like this today, I hope you know that even when it feels like no one sees you, that all your children see is a chauffeur or a cook or a bank or a maid or an income earner, I want you to remember and realize that God sees you, which means you have extraordinary value because you are a daughter of the King. And again, I've said this before, but there's nothing better than seeing royalty. We see, one of the princes that's going to be married here. Is he married yet? No, he's not. He's going to be married soon, and there's going to be children. And you think, I watch that, and I think, man, what a life those kids have. You see famous people, parents flashed all over the headlines. It looks like happy lives. Kids have everything at their disposal. You think, wow, it must be great to be one of those kids. Probably not. But you are daughters of the King. You are rightful heirs to his world, to his kingdom. And there's nothing better than being a daughter of the King, because eternity is yours for the taking. And for that matter, there's nothing better than being a son of the King as well. And knowing you thousands of years ago, before you even existed, Jesus and God had to make a choice. Knowing what you were going to go through in this world, knowing your brokenness, knowing your mistakes, he had to make a choice because you are daughters and you're sons of the King. And so he gave his life for you, to experience freedom, and to experience love, and to experience life, and to experience relationship the way it was intended, the way God made us to be. And that is available to us. The grace of Jesus is available to each and every one of us every single day, no matter how broken and messed up our world is. And that grace was made available to Hagar that day. We're going to sing a song right now that's called What Do You Say, or Who Do You Say I Am? Who do you say I am? And this could have been Hagar's song after she met God. After she talked to him, she could have sung these words. It says this: I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for every person in this room. I thank you for seeing us. I thank you for making us your children. And I thank you for every mother that is here today. And Lord, thank you for seeing them, for seeing the thousands of hours and the countless number of tasks that no one seems to care about, but make a world, and I mean a world of difference. And for the lives they have touched, the lives they have loved, and the lives they have poured their heart and their energy and their life into. Thank you for these women. And Lord, I pray today they feel encouraged, that they are seen, they are appreciated by you, by this church, and that they continue to press on, to pass along your praiseworthy deeds, to show the next generation, wherever they are at, grown and out of the house or babies yet to be born, the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord. Let us continue to honor you with our lives and our time and our work. We love you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
If you'd like to join us in singing, feel free to stand.
Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but He brought me His love for me. His love for me. Who the sun sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Who at last has ransomed His grace lost. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, He died for me. Who the sun sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. My Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who He says I am. You are glory, not against me. I am who He says I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who He says I am. You are glory, not against me. I am who You say I am. Yes, I am who You say I am. Who the sun sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. My Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. The Lord says, you are my workmanship, my daughter. I chose you long ago. I fashioned your inmost being and knit you together fearfully, wonderfully, and intentionally to do the work that I have planned for you. I designed your heart to beat for others, your eyes to see beauty in unlikely places and faces, your feet to move in fierce pursuit of justice, and your hands to reach out to those in need. I created your mind to house wisdom, sharp discernment, capable of knowing good and rejecting evil. Your mouth was created to speak life, and you are capable of walking the souls of others with just your smile. See, you were created as my image bearer, He says, already perfect through my sacrifice. I am your protector, I am your champion, the redeemer, the lover of your soul. You are my daughters, and I chose you. I am who You say I am.
you're all children of God. So I just want to say, Angela's daughters are up here. Isn't that a beautiful thing today? That's awesome. And Ella, come on up here with me. This is Ella. She sang at the beginning of the day. So we had a fun experience this last week. You had Kaleo Kids last weekend, and then on Wednesday she was at the Strand Theater. And so Josh Korn and I are sitting in the back of the theater, and Ella's being introduced, and there was a boy who innocently just kind of put his arm around the side of Ella, just put it on her shoulder. And this little girl saw it, and she's like, whew. Like, take your paws off of me, right? And Josh and I are like, go Angela, go Alan. It was so wonderful because what they're doing is they're raising a child of God who has value and is seen as a daughter of the King. And I can't wait to see what your life is going to be about. So thank you, Angela, for that. So we just want to say thank you so much. Two things. One, Midweek Wednesday, and we're back here for our defining moments next Sunday. We hope you have an incredible Mother's Day. Go and love your moms, and if she's here with you, love her on the way home as well. And we'll see you back later this week. Happy Mother's Day.